Okay, so today I am here. I've been here for a couple minutes, but since nobody showed, I'm going to go ahead and just stream and talk with you a little bit about the things that have been coming up this week. And I am finding that I'm working with a lot of people who either have experienced death or know somebody who's died that they wish they could have held on to, or they're in the process of seeing somebody go through the end of life process. I know that in my family we've experienced death, and it's just a very sensitive time, and everybody reacts so differently. But there are some ways that we can prepare. And what does that mean? Prepare for our own death, prepare for the death of other people. One of the things that's become really popular lately is having family members, write their own story. I know there's a service out there that you can have your parents write, like every month they answer a question, and then at the end of the year it combines into a book. And so you kind of have the story of their life. And that's a really neat gift, obviously, to give. And you can do that at any point in your life, whether you're 20, whether you're, 50 and you're just starting to have grandkids, or you're just finishing raising your kids, or you're older and you feel like you're in that last leg of life. At any point in your life, you can certainly write a book and write down questions to answers that might help you flesh out what your life was like, or what advice you'd like to pass on, or any of that kind of thing. But one of the things that I found particularly useful, this was actually recommended to me to share with one of my clients a couple of years ago from another counselor who had seen this done. And in this case, his father was dying, and we were able to connect with his father and have his father complete one of those letters to my son journals. And I don't know if you've heard about those, but you can find them on Amazon. I'm trying to think of, I think it's by Leah Redmond, Redmond. Lea is the first name. And there are letters to my son, letters to my daughter. I don't know if they have letters to nephews and nieces. I think maybe, somebody needs to create that, or maybe I need to create that, because um, the neat opportunity is that it prompts you on some things to share that will be valuable to them later. And that's the one thing I find most of the time, if people haven't already had that discussion, or maybe the person that died wasn't comfortable talking about dying, or maybe the person, in fact, this is often the case, the person who is caretaking or still being there for the person who is dying doesn't want to talk about letting them go. Oh, don't talk about that. We're going to work on getting you better. Or it's okay. You don't have to worry about that. We're going to take care of it. And so you never actually have some of the discussions, just by nature of the logistics of the end of life, depending on how it comes about, to have some of these conversations. And so what's really neat is to fill out these letters and complete them, so that when the time comes after the person's gone, you can hear their voice, or they can share their voice, or you can share your voice with the people that you leave behind, and let them know, hey, I really believe in you. I like who you are becoming. I thought you made some really good choices in life. Or that when things were hard, you stuck it out. Or when things were hard, you felt the feelings and you let yourself stay in that moment. Or even just jokes that might have been fun between you. I do have, other people that I've worked with in the past who have such a difference in, maybe there's 20 years difference between the husband and wife, and he writes letters to the wife, or she'll write letters or make plans for him. In fact, I know of one couple who was just such a neat thing, that in going through his desk after he had died, the gal found this huge envelope, and she had been working for several years to lose weight. And there was a kind of goal she had in mind. and that he had actually created an envelope, had a whole letter written, had money inside, and it said, this is money for your new wardrobe. I know you've been working really hard for this, and I just want to let you know that this is for you. Now, his death was sudden. This guy was just such a planner ahead of time that he happened to have done this. He did not know he was going to die. This was just something that he thought, I want to do some caretaking ahead of time. And so he did it, and he set aside. What a blessing it was for her to come across that envelope later and to just feel like, wow, he's still reaching out. I'm still feeling the love. The love of that relationship continues to exist even beyond the grave. And that does continue. Grief and missing that person, having that camaraderie, that is definitely something that's a loss. But the memories and the love continues. That is something that's still real. And what's neat is when somebody can get a letter from somebody who's passed on. I mean, think about that right now. Who is somebody in your life? Like, I would have loved to have one more letter from my grandma. She and I would write back and forth once in a while when I was in college, and it would just be really neat to hear from her one more time. It doesn't even need to be about me or about her. It could just be anything. Just to see her handwriting would be a precious gift. And how special that would be for us to produce even ahead of time now. And it's great to give people letters now and to not wait to say those things that we want to say while we're still alive. But it's also kind of neat to have a little something that you have set aside just for them to come across, or for you to set it, in the file that has your will in it and all the good stuff for once you're gone, so that hopefully you've done some end of life planning. That's a whole nother discussion. If you haven't, let's talk, because I can help you through that too. But getting some of that end of life documentation so that, when somebody does pass, they come across the file of, here were your wishes, here's what you're expecting, here are the things that you're okay with letting go of. And obviously you're letting go because you're not in this world anymore. But just helping that person who's left behind feel like they've got some guidance. And a lot of times it's meaningful for us to follow through on what somebody died, not so much because they're watching over us, or, oh my gosh, they're going to curse us if from the grave, but because it feels really good to know that we're doing the wishes of the person who died. And just to know that we are connecting with them in one more way, honoring them in one more way, by following those wishes, by their documentation, but also by their letters of jokes and encouragement and just connection. And that this really was a connection. And again, it's another way to affirm. So today, as you're thinking about people who have gone before you, maybe you have a token of something that somebody has given you, or you have handwriting. I still have handwriting of my grandmother's letters, and that's just precious to me. Um, that's something that we can be grateful for, those letters and those moments from when they were alive. And maybe this week, especially being the week of Thanksgiving, you might want to take an opportunity to write a little note. It doesn't have to be a long letter, just write something note. Just be like, okay, once in a while I'll be like, okay, I need to think through everybody in my family and what am I grateful for about them today? Or what is something, actually I was doing this with my clients earlier today, and just going back through, who are the clients I've had this last year? Maybe we finished up counseling or coaching and we're kind of done. That I want to be sure and reach out and just let them know, hey, I really noticed this about you. And just sending them a note to let them know, they're still thought of, there's still really some positive things there. And just making sure that those things get written out. And the reason I say written out is because I remember I got a really good piece of advice when I was in junior high from my youth minister. And he said, if you're going to say something, hard or give rough feedback, do it verbally. If you're going to give a compliment or something encouraging, write it down, because people can go back and read it. But unfortunately, we remember the criticisms, no problem. But the encouragements and where we're doing things right, or just the affirming of relationships, sometimes needs the reminder, and those things written down can just be a real treasure. So that's my tidbit for today, and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I will be on here next week for anybody who wants to connect.